Michelle Collins, hello.
Hello.
It's great to meet you.
Yes, I do.
This is exciting. You are, can I first of all say that you are the most enthusiastic My Playlist guest we've had.
Really?
I've got reams and reams of tracks, of memories.
I love my music.
So, Michelle, the next hour, we're going to be finding out your favourite songs. I've got loads of questions for you, a few about EastEnders. Who knew?
Who knew what,
Well, listen,
Steve?
the first thing I want to ask you about is that you used to be a singer.
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, kind of by default, really.
And this first song is by the band that you were in, is that right?
Yes. Are you playing Just What I've Always Wanted?
Yes.
So I'll be very gracious about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was with Mary Wilson, the Wilsations, for about 18 months. When I was 18, there was about 12 of us in the band, and 9 guys and 3 girls. It was probably one of the best periods of my life. We had such a great time. And we recorded Just What I've Always Wanted. And then Mary decided she wanted to go solo and employ session musicians. But at the time, I didn't kind of get that. When you're a 19-year-old and you're kind of... So it kind of affected me quite badly, especially when she appeared on Top of the Pops.
Ooh.
And it got to number 7 in the charts. I think they kind of re-recorded it. But you know what? At the end of the day, we are friends now, and I think success comes out of a lot of failures. I felt like I was a kind of a failure at that time. A lot of us did who were kind of, but it kind of spurred me on to do what I really wanted to do. And yeah, I remember seeing them on Top of the Pops, and one side of me obviously was like, oh my God, it should have been me. But I was really happy because, you know, Mary had worked really hard for that success, and it was a great song. It was a great song.
So as we press play on this, how does it make you feel as it starts?
Do you know what? It's a great song, and it makes me feel really happy, and I think of all the good times, and I probably wouldn't be the person that I was today if I hadn't been in that band, and I'm still very good friends with everybody.
So it could have been you on Top of the Pops.
It could have been
But that's
me.
really interesting what you said about the failures thing, because it's so true.
It is true.
Isn't it? At the time, it doesn't feel great.
No, it doesn't, and I think, you know, there's always those things in now. What would you tell your 16, 18-year-old, 19-year-old self, you know, but for some reason, I really had, and I think my mum was a very strong person. I had I was hungry. I was really hungry. And yes, it got me down for quite a while, I must say. But then I just kind of picked myself up and started again. And you know, yeah, we have to kind of keep on going. And I think as an actor and also as a singer in this industry, you kind of have to be a bit like Teflon and just keep on going and keep on going, because you never know when it's going to happen. And we have to have those knockbacks and those failures to keep us going. You know, it wouldn't be kind of real if we had kind of success after success after success. Yeah. I think that happens very rarely to people, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now tell me about, I know you mentioned this earlier, David Bowie, really important influence in your life. Tell me more about him and about this song.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Bowie when I was at school, and the kind of Aladdin Sane, you know, that kind of era. And I actually I lived in London, from North London, and I had to go and live with my grandparents when I was 11, 12, because my mum wasn't well. And they were my great-grandparents, actually, so they were quite old. They were kind of in their 80s. So you can imagine two girls, 12 and 13, my sister and I, had to go and live in Hayes, Middlesex, which actually isn't that far now, but in those days, it felt like it was miles away. It was the countryside, you know. And I remember kind of just being like, oh my God, where am I? What is this place? And we went to obviously a different school, and I got a bike, and I bought this bike for £5, and I used to just cycle around on my own and listen to the top 40 in my room, and just thinking and listening to Bowie all the time. And I just feel like Bowie, with his lyrics and his kind of ever-changing kind of the evolution, and I think Young Americans was when he'd kind of changed, hadn't he? He'd kind of got rid of the Aladdin Sane kind of thing, and just loving Young Americans. And, you know, in those days we all had cassette players, and we would record music, and it just reminds me of, and I was a bit naughty. My great-grandma used to call me a minx. and I used to watch the good old days and the wrestling with my granddad.
Yeah.
And he was a real character. He was Welsh, and he seemed like he was very, very kind of disciplined and strong, but he was actually quite funny. So I have kind of fond memories of that time.
Let me ask you, when you were at this age listening to Bowie, did you have dreams of being the person that you've become?
I did. I always kind of felt a little bit different, that I never kind of quite fitted in. And I always felt like I wanted kind of more than what I had. You know, we were kind of a very working class family. My mum was a single parent, 2 daughters. So things were tough. They were tough. But, you know, my mum was, as I said, very strong, very kind of loving. But I always knew I wanted to be an actor, and I didn't know how. I mean, you know, and I watched a lot of TV. I was obsessed with television. I was obsessed with film. So deep, you know, in the back of my mind, I always kind of wanted to do it, but I was always frightened to tell people. But I was actually quite shy. I think a lot of people always feel that actors are kind of, they're not all loud and all want to be the centre of attention all the time. It actually kind of wasn't the case in me. I had a sister who used to talk for me a lot. There was only a year between us, so I was quite shy. But yeah, I always wanted to do it. I really did. So to me, music was a way of kind of, I suppose, being creative, and watching TV was being creative.
Okay, and it worked out brilliantly.
Yeah, it did.
But it wasn't an overnight success, was it?
No, absolutely not. I had to work really hard, and, you know, there was kind of no nepotism in my family or anything. And I really did work hard for those opportunities that kind of came my way probably later on. But I think you need to work hard.
Now, Rod Stewart, Maggie May is the next track on your list. You're telling me about your mum. Tell me about this.
Yeah, my mum had great musical taste. And my mum was actually very young when she had us. She was like, she was 20 and 21 when I think she had my sister and I. So, you know, she was kind of still in her 20s, 30s when we were growing up. And I always remember she had great musical taste, very eclectic, from Aretha Franklin to Tony Bennett, Rod Stewart, were the faces then. And she had this Every Picture Tells a Story, which I think Maggie May was on, and she always used to play it. And I used to love it as a teenager as well. And we also played it at my mum's funeral. And I've got to meet Rob over the years, and I think he's still great. He's one of our great,
and he's a lovely
British
man,
musicians.
isn't he?
Oh, I just love him, and I just think he's really down to earth as well. And I love the fact that he's still here in Britain. You know, he hasn't gone away and defected to America like a lot of them. And I just think it stirs so many emotions, so many memories. You know, boys that I used to go out with, even to like, you know, he's defined, hasn't he, because he's had albums out every decade.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Tonight's the Night, I love that album. But I think Maggie May probably defines Rod Stewart.
You know, so picture the scene. It was Sunday night here on Virgin Radio. There is paper everywhere with lists of tracks, reams. We've got a library of songs here tonight. I love this. I'm just going to say, what do you want next, Michelle? What should we play?
Oh, what do I want
Go
next?
on.
Okay, what was I talking? Why don't we play Stand By Me, The Clash?
Okay. Now, you used to be, because I mentioned that Belinda Carlisle's asked for this song before, and you was like, well, I was a bit of a punk. Is that right? Were you a punk?
I was a punk, and I used to, again, that thing I think about wanting to be a little bit different and kind of stand out from the crowd a bit, and like... Yeah, what was really strange is, and I'll tell you my next song, is that I had a very, very close friend of mine who died when I was 15, she was 16. And I think that what happened, I think was so tragic and such a big thing in my life that it changed me a lot. And that's when I kind of got into the kind of punk movement. And I used to tell my mum I was going out, and then I'd go downstairs, and in the cupboard I'd put all these clothes, and I'd put my punk clothes on and put all my makeup on and go out, come back, get back into my ordinary clothes for quite a long time until I was caught. But I just loved the Clash. I saw the Clash, and I lived in Islington, so I had the Hope and Anchor. We had the Roundhouse, and I think this next song was one of my favourite songs of that era, and I just loved the Clash so much.
Did you go to like traditional punk clubs?
Yeah,
and stuff?
I used to go to not the Blitz. I think was kind of a bit late. It was quite expensive, but I used to go to the Hope and Anchor. Used to go to the Roundhouse. Loads of kind of pub venues. It was a lot of pub venues in those days.
Yeah.
The Dublin Castle was a good one. Yeah, we used to go to a lot of places.
And Belinda Carlisle did say to me that when she used to perform at
I know
punk
Belinda,
clubs,
by the way.
well, she said that people used to spit at you if they were enjoying your performance.
Well,
and
she's
stuff.
I mean, we were obviously we were much later than them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just funny. I mean, and then the pogo in and the kind of, I mean, I never used to spit. I wasn't a spitter.
That was my next question.
Do you know what I think it was? I think at that time we needed something different. Something that kind of, our lives, there was a lot of political stuff going on. There was a lot of racism. And we needed something that would bring people together and to be different, I think. And we needed music. And I think it's kind of sad now. That's kind of what people want, but it's not really kind of happening music-wise, is it, in a way? I mean...
No, I mean, it doesn't seem to be any kind of real strain or anything going on, apart from, I don't know, the Swiftie, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's not the same, though, is
it's kind of, that moment. I mean, I did get into a little bit later. I mean, I remember that moment when the Sex Pistols were on ITV being interviewed, and it was like, wow, who are these people?
So anti-establishment.
But it kind of needed to be. We needed change. A bit like now, we need some kind of change.
Yeah.
And I think young people were kind of stood up. And, I remember going to anti-racism marches and anti-Nazi marches in Victoria Park. And you really felt alive.
Yeah.
There was something about those times that you really felt alive as a young person.
So many things to ask you. Obviously, you've done so much other than EastEnders, but I need to ask you about EastEnders and how you got into it, and also what that felt like when you met your fellow actors and the cast and stuff.
You mean when I went back?
Yeah.
After 25 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first time round.
When I was a jobbing actress. I like actress and actor. I like actress. When I was 26 when I got the audition for EastEnders, and I'd already been in a drama for the BBC, which had been written by Tony Lyons and Tony Holland, who wrote for EastEnders. And so I was asked to go in for an audition and to meet Julia Smith, who was very scary, I must say. He was the big producer at EastEnders. Amazing woman.
Very famous.
Very famous. And I went in, and I was originally in for 11 episodes, and I stayed. So Cindy became that kind of, I suppose, iconic, people like to say.
Absolutely.
I suppose. I don't know, but yeah. But I loved it when I first went in. It was amazing, and it was a huge thing in those days. Like I said, I'd been on TV. I'd had a lot of work, and I'd also actually auditioned for the part of Punk Mary 3 years before that, which I didn't get.
Punk,
yes, and I think it was called E8 then.
Yes.
So, and it was great because it was, it was like a social comment on life, and the stories were great. It was gritty. It was very mixed culturally. It was very diverse, and they were kind of talking about real things, about real people, things that happened to real people, and also there were great roles for women.
Yes,
in
and yours was one of the best, and certainly one of the memorable. When 20 million people used to watch it. It's incredible. Isn't it?
It is incredible, and I think even to this day, people will always remember the Angie Den story, the Christmas Day, that But yeah, I'm so glad that I kind of started in those early days. And who would have said that I would have come back 25? I always said never say never.
Right.
And
so how did the return happen then?
I was just, because I'd stayed in contact with Adam a lot, and Adam said to me, and I was doing Cluedo, I think, at the time, and I think he was on, and he said, "Oh, what do you?"
This is Adam as in
Adam Woodyard, sorry, Ian Beale.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "Oh, I think, what would you feel about going back?" And I was like, "Oh, don't be silly, I can't. I'm dead." He went, "I don't think so." Anyway, but then I got a call to my agent called me, and I had to, and obviously stop the car, and I was like, really? Seriously? They want to go back? How are they going to do that? And I thought the only way they could possibly do that would be some kind of witness protection. And they did. And then a year later, it all came to fruition, and there I was. And it was very strange. And I was all, I kept thinking, I'm very much I always trust my gut feeling. And there was a part of me, going, oh no, this is the worst thing you could possibly do. What are people going to say? But then my gut feeling was saying, no, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Just go for it. And yeah, I think it was a great decision for me. I'm happy there. I'm getting great stories as long as I continue to get great stories, and it was great seeing people again, and the show really is on a high, I think, and it's really great to be part of something that is still there after 39 years, and that I feel that I've been such a part of it over the years.
Back in the day when, you really made that role your own, I'm sure you got recognised by everybody in your days. Did that ever become a hassle?
It was crazy. They were crazy days. Yeah, I think it did for everybody that was on TV 24/7 in those days. Yes, it did. But then you've also got social media now. So I don't know. What's worse? I don't know. I mean,
Do you think it has got worse now?
Has it got... Well, I suppose in a sense, at least I could have a chance of actually kind of, replying to somebody or doing something on social media. And whereas before, you never had a platform to do that.
No.
Did you? So... it's the pros and cons of social media, aren't there? I just don't know. No. I do think social media is a big problem in a lot of people's lives, regarding mental health, things like that.
Massive, isn't it?
Massive, yes. But then also, it's also been a great platform in other ways for people. So yes, those days. But yes, there were good and bad days. But I wouldn't have had the career that I've had today if it wasn't for EastEnders.
Go on then. So, what song should we play that kind of sums up this era?
Yeah. So I joined EastEnders in '88. I've been a massive Fleetwood Mac fan my entire life. Who didn't want to be Stevie Nicks? I mean,
yes.
Rumours has defined my teenage years, and actually I'm still listening to it, as probably most other people are. Let's have Everywhere.
Perfect.
Yes.
Are you enjoying this?
I love it. As you can
so
see, I could talk all day about music.
Well, it's so nice to have somebody who's so up for it, and I'm just going to chuck... You're doing all the hard work. Which one would you like next on your playlist?
Can we do Jeff Buckley?
Yeah. Why is that?
I came a bit late to the party of Jeff Buckley, and when I got married about a year and a half ago. When I was choosing wedding tracks, I kind of came. It kind of was there, and I played it, and I was like, why have I never heard this man before? And I went onto Google and found out about the album. Was it Grace?
Yes.
And then this incredible tragic story about how he died. And it was like, oh my God, what a talent. Just what an incredible talent. And my husband loves that track. We didn't play it at our wedding in the end because we thought it just wasn't kind of the right
Slightly
thing
melancholic.
to play. Slightly melancholic. But I know a lot of young people, and his music has influenced so many people. I just think this song is just... mesmeric. It's just so emotional and such a beautiful song, and he had such a tragic ending.
Yeah. And can I ask you, which song did you go for at the wedding?
I went for Everybody Here Wants You.
Oh, okay. That was the one you went for.
Yes.
And how was the wedding?
The wedding was amazing, and we ended up we went down the aisle to Sam Hunt 23. So I probably really need to play that because my husband and I are really into country music.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a lot of time in America over the years, and
you've worked in America, haven't you?
I have worked in America quite a long time ago, but I have, and I kind of went there for a while, a couple of months here and there, and then whenever I'd go to LA, I'd get a job back in England, Yes. And now I'm just kind of, do you know what? If the American thing comes, it comes. It doesn't matter
anymore. Is it a tough market to crack?
It's an incredibly tough market. I think maybe not so much now because we've got self-taping, that kind of thing. And although actually I must say, I do think maybe for kind of older women, it's kind of they're a bit kinder. They're possibly more roles. I don't know, but you know what? I have my life here, and I think unless you can go to America and you can spend a good couple of years there and try and do it like that, it doesn't kind of work if you just keep on
really
going
back
and forward. I think so.
Yeah.
And also, there's that thing. Do we really always have to make it in America now? It was kind of an old thing, wasn't it? Well, you've not made it unless you make it in America. But I do love it, and I have some wonderful friends in LA. But I always listen to country music, and then when I met my husband, he used to come over and see me when I was there. We just love the lyrics of country music.
So if someone's listening and they're thinking, I don't know too much about country music, can you give me a few gems that you love or artists that people should check out?
Okay, I mean Sam Hunt, Keith Urban.
Yeah.
Even Pink and Keith Urban did a brilliant duet together.
Yes,
really good.
yeah.
And Keith Urban's The Fighter is brilliant. There are songs like, I had a really bad headache and you were in bed and I made you a coffee and you didn't talk to me last night, but let's go for a walk and sort it out. And it's just like, it's just mad. But and look, Beyonce's just done a country and western song.
Ask you,
Come on.
and she's done it amazing. And, literally she single-handedly will introduce country music to a legion of new fans now.
I just think, you know what, I used to listen to like a lot of talking on the radio and news things, and I'm so over it now. And it's like the thing, even actually I was in a cab coming here and the guy was listening to country music, and I was like, yay,
it's escapism.
It's real escapism. And I think, again, I keep saying we need it now, and it's just, I just love it. And I think, like I said, the lyrics are amazing, just the music, it makes you want to get up and dance, doesn't it? And I went to a place when I was in LA, it's called Country and Western, and it's where they filmed Thelma and Louise, and everybody was line dancing, from kids to grannies of like 85. It was incredible. I think we should have more line dancing clubs here. I really do.
Yeah. You mentioned to me a moment ago, and I hope you don't. Obviously, if you don't want to talk about this, it's fine. But you did mention that a big moment in your life was it losing your really good friend?
Yes, she was called Kate Healy, and she was 16 and I was 15 when she died. She actually died on a school trip, and because there was no phones or anything in those days, it was really sad. It was like a kind of a field trip type thing. She was in Wales and she had a heart attack, actually, and all the boys carried her back, and she died and they couldn't save her. And I just remember the funeral was just incredible. It was making me cry. Was just incredible. It was streaming with people, young people, they were outside, and it was just so emotional. When a person dies, of course it is anyway, when a 16-year-old dies, it's really heartbreaking. And I think that had such a huge effect on my life and as a person, also in my career, because her family introduced me to so many people that I would never have met through her. Her cousin was an actress who then helped me with my auditions to go to drama school. And I think life is kind of mapped out by people like that who you meet. And I'm still, sadly, her parents have passed away now, but I'm still friendly with her sisters. And she was a massive impact on my life, and I'll never forget her. And I think the song that really, and we loved Fleetwood Mac. Both of us used to kind of want to be Stevie Nicks, which I've already said, but and we loved Bob Marley. And Waiting in Vain was played at her funeral. And so, I think this one's for Kate.
What was her full name again?
Kate Healy.
Michelle, that was a beautiful moment. We're back to your playlist on this Sunday. I can't believe this has gone by so quickly.
Hasn't
I've
it?
still got 5,000 questions to ask you. Tell me the next song, and I'll ask you about Coronation Street.
I think we need a bit of Evening Champagne King. Love Come Down. Because I don't go out that much to clubs. I don't think many people do. Sadly, clubs are dying, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I used to go to the Fridge in Brixton.
Oh wow! Okay,
to
I've
Love
been
Muscle.
there.
And,
Did you?
Yeah, and you know what? It was such fun, and I still love dancing.
Do you know? I went to that club and I saw things that night that, well, if I mentioned them to you.
Do you know they're having?
Honestly.
Well, Yvette, the Conqueror,
right?
They're doing a night on Good Friday.
But they're bringing it
all
back.
getting back together. They're bringing it back after like 28 years or something, and it's just going to be amazing.
Do you know, as a young gay guy, I went there and I thought, okay, this is what happens on a Saturday night.
Well,
in Brixton.
Take That played there before, and the next gig they had, I think, was Wembley.
Wow.
It was and it was such an amazing place. It was every Friday at the Fridge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I just used to love this song, and I can't wait to go to the next song because I just want to dance, and this song just makes me want to dance.
And I want to ask you, because I know that you've always been a real ally for LGBTQ plus people.
Oh,
You've got, the massive gay following. Tell me about how important that is to you in your career.
Yeah, very, very important. I remember those Pride marches very early on, and in actual fact, I always remember a really good friend of mine. I worked. I think when I'd left the band and I was 19, I think I worked for a market research company called Audience Selection, and it was full of out-of-work actors and artists and a real eclectic bunch of people. And I sat next to Ted DeCamiller, and he was from Buffalo. I always remember, New York State, and and he was gay, and he was very gay and very loud and hilariously funny. And neither of us had much money because we spent all our money on cigarettes and going out. And I think I had a Mars bar and a packet of crisps, and I sat next to him at lunchtime, and we just hit it off, and we were such great friends. And sadly, he died of AIDS a few years later. And another friend of mine called Mark Johnson, he was a very good friend. He also died, and very sadly his family refused to accept the fact that he was HIV, and none of us were allowed to go to his funeral, and it was really, really sad. I mean, actually stories that were kind of in It's a Sin, I think,
and
which Russell T Davies covered so brilliantly, as you know, as the friends that we all were friends of. And I think, you know, we were all kind of, I don't know, it was like we found our kind of tribe, you know. And I used to go, and also in those days, lots of bands and singers didn't want to be affiliated to kind of gay marches or whatever. It was kind of quite hard to get people back in the days. I mean, thank God now we're all kind of, it's brilliant, you know. But yeah, I kind of just felt I felt like I was part of all that. And yeah, I have lots of friends, I have a lot of gay friends, so yes.
And it's interesting, EastEnders, I think people forget this.
Michael Cashman. Oh, you're going to say that? So Michael Cashman, Lord Michael Cashman, who's a very good friend of mine. I was a witness at his wedding, and so he played Colin. And he had the first gay kiss
and this was
on EastEnders.
Massive.
And Cindy and Ian rented Colin's flat. So
Really?
I like to feel, that I was kind of really part of that story. And actually Gary Hales is now a celebrant. And a friend of mine died recently, and I booked Gary Hales to be the celebrant at my friend who was gay at the funeral. Yeah, so it's funny how things come round, isn't it? Full circle.
That's amazing to ask you about that. It really is.
But no, I think, you know, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there still saying there is prejudice. Yes, but we have come a long, long way, particularly you know, for people who with AIDS who are now kind of can live with it.
It's almost done a 360 now, hasn't it? And
yes.
If only we'd had those medical advancements 40 years ago, all those bright lights, all those people
gosh, I know. I had so many people who died, and I don't want to get kind of maudling about it, but it was very, very sad. But we've come a long way. I mean, there's still, you know, things to do, and still a lot of prejudice, depending where you live, I think, as well. You know, in the world. Yeah. Exactly. But no. Okay. Yeah, no, and Ted was brilliant fun.
Now there's a massive dilemma, because we've still got 7 pages of songs to get through. Listen, Michelle, I'm going to be very unkind. I'm going to throw at you a huge question.
Okay.
EastEnders or Coronation Street?
Oh, EastEnders.
But you were in Corrie as well. You're one of the few people that could say they've been in both.
I was in both, yeah. I had a great time in Corrie. Don't get me wrong, but it came at a part of my life when it wasn't easy for me to relocate. My daughter was 15 at the time, 14, 15, and it was tough going back and forth. And I was the landlady of the Rovers. I mean, that's a pretty iconic role,
cool.
isn't it?
You're like the Bette Lynch of a future generation.
Yeah. And it was hard, and I think some people weren't happy about me being in that show because, she's a Southerner, she can't be in Corrie, you know. But it's
great that you did it and you made it your own, because that must have been a tough move. You were so synonymous with Cindy and EastEnders.
Yes, and actually very brave for them to actually pick, you know, for the role. And I had to kind of fight tooth and nail to get that role. I didn't get it just like that, you know. And Tony Warren had to approve me as well. You know, he was the big creator of it. I also remember my first day in the pub, and I was like so nervous. And I always remember David Nielsen, who plays Roy. So I had David Nielsen, Deirdre, and Ken Barlow. I mean, the 3 iconic greats standing at the bar asking for a drink. And I think I was kind of quite frozen. I didn't quite know what to say. I mean, I was, you know, it was...
What were they like? Are they nice people?
They were lovely. They were really lovely. Particularly Annie Kirkbride. I don't know, we're not really supposed to say it, but I mean, mad as a bunch of frogs. as cheese, as I used to say. I mean, mad in such a wonderful way that actors are. A complete open book, just a really lovely, beautiful person, and very generous, very supporting. And people were kind of like that. But again, it was tough for 3 years going back, and I didn't totally relocate. I rented a house up there. But as soon as they'd kind of run out of stories, then I was like, this is time to go. But I'm always one for, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
I think. And when they asked me, I was like, no, I'm gonna try this. I will try things, but I do get bored quite quickly. And I do like to kind of move on and do other things.
I mentioned to you earlier, I did see you on stage in Bromley a couple of years ago, and you were brilliant. That was...
it was Cluedo.
Cluedo, of course it was.
Yes, it was Cluedo. I played Miss Scarlet.
You were the lead on that show, without a doubt, and I really enjoyed seeing you. Is theatre something that you still like doing? You still enjoy doing? Is there anything in the pipeline? Can you do theatre with all your TV work?
I think we are allowed to do theatre. Obviously, if I think Tamika's doing a show at Stratford East, and I think the producer knew that I would like to do other things at some point, and I think also I think it's really good to use your tools to go out and do a play, because so that you don't kind of get rusty. I think every actor should do TV, film, theatre, and I just love, I started out in theatre. I just absolutely love it. I've produced my own play at the Park. I've done a lot of London Fringe, also Hampstead Theatre. I really recommend that people go out and do a lot more theatre. I mean, sadly, people, the arts, the funding's being, they're massive cutbacks. And, whenever there's a recession, what goes first? The arts, which is really, really sad, because I think people really need to go to the theatre. It's so important. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to. I had a one-woman show which was going to be at the Gilded Balloon at the Edinburgh Festival, and then COVID happened. It was called Motorhome Marilyn.
Oh wow, I like that. I like the sound of it.
And yeah, it was about a Marilyn lookalike. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want anyone to pinch my ideas.
So it still might be a thing.
I'm still working on it. Yeah, I kind of, and sadly the guy who wrote it, he died actually not long ago, and we were writing it together. So I definitely want to get it on as a kind of legacy for Stuart Permit. So yeah, I love theatre, but mixed the most, because it doesn't always pay that well, Steve.
Okay. See, we're getting a window into...
Not unless you're Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, but the
£350 a ticket. I mean, that's crazy.
Listen, I've got one final question for you. Very kindly been introduced to you via our colleague here, the lovely Kevin O'Sullivan. And you mentioned earlier that you do some great work for this. It's an animal charity, isn't it?
Yes, it's an animal rescue charity, dogs, and it's called All Dogs Matter. And I have 2 dogs from them. I have Humphrey, who's about 12, 13. We're not quite sure, because when we got him, he was,
is he a rescue?
He's a rescue, and he's a bit of everything. A bit of Lapsa, Pug, Shih Tzu, everything, but I adore him. And he's a bit like a grumpy old man at the moment. He's very slow. But I got another dog to kind of up his game during lockdown called Peggy, who's a Cavapoo. And she's crazy, but has definitely upped his game. He's a lot happier since Peggy came along. But they're wonderful. They're small, and I like the fact they're small. Ricky Gervais is a patron, Peter Egan, and... yeah, and I think it's good to keep it small. I think they rehome actually about 400 dogs a year.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
They're great. But also, I think they're going through a bit of a tough time, because a lot of people have taken in dogs and now can't look after them.
Is this because of lockdown?
I think so. Yeah, but they are a fantastic charity, and I see Kevin at a lot of the fundraisers. I love my dogs. My husband loves it. I don't know where I'd be without my dogs. And I think animals bring such joy to people, whether it be a cat, dog,
kind
or
of a
whatever.
Calmness as well.
Yeah,
don't
and you
they?
meet
Comfort.
such great people walking the dogs. I met the head of ITV walking the dog in the park, and it's like, let's go for a walk in the park. I just love dog people, and I'm sorry, I don't trust people. A, you say they don't drink, and second, say they don't like animals. I'm sorry, don't trust you.
Listen, on that note, Michelle, we love you here. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I think you should come in and do your own show.
I'd love to.
I'm booking you already.
I'd love to.
Can we end? Give me one more song that you'd like to end your My Playlist
okay.
with.
Should we end with David Gray, Babylon?
Perfect. Michelle Collins, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Virgin Radio.